I God is love. And when you hear this uh, phrase, what comes to mind? What comes to mind? The key theme, Jesus showed God's love when he came to rescue us by dying on the cross and rising from the dead. We are to respond and place our faith in him. Last week I was speaking to a young man. He's a wonderful young man, being the age that I am at. He helped me with my grant. When I was doing my research paper, he helped me with my grant. I never did that in high school when I was growing up. When I was going to high school, my knowledge of Excel, so he helped me with that. He graduated as an engineer from Harding University. He's an engineering student. But he's doing the course. He has to do an English course, which he's doing this summer. So we basically meet in the library daily. We meet in the library daily because he's in the library, I'm in the library. My favorite place at Harding, you would think it would be the chapel. No, it's a library. That's my favorite place. And so he was exploring. He said he wanted to be a missionary. He said he doesn't know how to speak, preach. And then I was giving him some pointers. He wanted to go to the Philippines. And I said, listen, 80% of Christianity is not what you say, but what you do. I'm going to say that again. 80% of Christianity is not what you say, but what you do. Your life should be read, your life should be seen and read by all men. And whatever you are doing, that should be reflective of Jesus Christ, of the Holy Spirit, and how Jesus Christ came on this earth. Some people might think that Jesus came preaching because they read about him, talking on the Mount of Olives in Matthew chapter 5. But look on Jesus' ministry. Jesus' ministry was more of an action ministry. Jesus did more than how he preached. You look through Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John if you think I am kidding. And whenever Jesus was going around, he was talking, yes, but he was an action person. He mingled with the poor. He went to those who needed forgiveness. He healed the sick. He fed those who were hungry. His ministry was a ministry of kindness. He led the apostles. He knelt down and he washed their what? Their feet. He was at the, he went to pay those who had lost their loved ones a visit. He brought back the dead to life. Jesus' ministry was a ministry of action. And so, when someone is, so I was having this conversation with him, and I said, listen, don't worry about the speaking. That will come together. But I tell you, once you go there and you start to do, once you go there and you start to engage, first of all, the moment I was talking about the ministry of presence. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? The ministry of presence. Hmm? The ministry of presence is that your body is there and you don't have to say anything. You can turn up at the hospice. And by you turning up, I'm a police chaplain, and we are always on duty because we offer hope in a very dramatic or traumatizing situation. There might be a scene where there is an active shooter. We don't have to go there and have a gun and be playing the role of a firefighter or a paramedic. No, we just go there and stand there. We can have our hands like this and pray. And it's a ministry of what? Of presence. I mean, it gives them hope. Those who believe in God, someone who is worthy of standing with God is praying on their behalf, praying for a better situation. So that's a ministry of presence, and it is very, very what? Effective. It gives a calm assurance of security in the midst of chaos and confusion. Parents brings this to a home, to children. Daddy and mommy shows up, they feel a lot better. They feel protected and secure. Why? Because you have assured them and you are there to support them. And sometimes you don't have to say anything. Guess what? They're on the football team. Mommy and daddy's in the stand, and their biggest supporters are there, and they are confident, and they're going to give their all. Whatever happens on the field, mom is in the stand, dad is in the stand. You understand? Your presence gives hope, it gives assurance, it gives security, it helps. And so we are talking about God is love. And so this young man, I said, listen, you don't have to talk too much. And that's the example I'm trying to get to. You don't have to be the best speaker. It was Moses when God said, I need you to go into Egypt. Moses said, I cannot talk. He said, don't worry about that. You got Aaron. He's a mouthpiece. He loves to talk. But I want you to go. You know, his brother was Aaron. Huh? He said, I got here, and he's, you know, you have those people in your family, they love to talk. Yeah, but I want you to go because you're chosen, you're an action man. So you don't have to be the most eloquent of speakers to demonstrate God's love. So God is love. In the last chapter, we focused on God's holiness. We are now ready to focus on God's love. It's only in the light of God's holiness that God's love can truly be seen. This is why John 3:16 would win, hands down, in a contest to discover the most known and loved verse of Scripture. You know, a lot of people talk about John 3:16, but what about John 3:17 and 18? You ever heard those two? But anyway, so John 3:16 says, for God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whosoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. Can anybody interpret this passage for me? Help me to interpret. I have an interpretation, but Anybody interpret this passage for me? And let me tell you something. I need you to talk. I want you to talk to me, Sister Millie. I want you guys to talk to Sister Ernestine. When I ask questions, I know you can talk, you know. All right, so we learn through correction. Hello? When you make a mistake, we learn through correction. What else we learn through? Feedback. Okay? It's a part of learning. All right? If you didn't know, I didn't know all of these things. Now I know. Yeah. Correction is a part of learning. Feedback is a part of learning. Props is a part of learning. All these things, they're a part of learning. Don't be afraid to get an answer wrong. Don't be afraid. A lot of times I was in school and I have the right answer, but I just feel like somebody's going to laugh at me. So I just, you know. All right? So all these things, you have to make mistakes to learn. All right?
So Chris,
yes.
I really think part of this comes into play in a discussion you had a few weeks ago.
Yes.
When we talked about predestination versus free will and
Yeah.
things like that. You know, people look up and say, in a predestination type thing, well, you know, God knows every thought you're going to make, and He knows everything you've done before your birth and those kinds of things. And while He knows our decisions and our hearts and things, I think He didn't put people on here knowing they were going to hell. They do have a free will to make choices because His vision, His version is to save everyone.
Yeah.
And that's what He came here.
Yeah.
And so we have the free will.
Yeah.
And sometimes people do start talking that predestination thing, or that thing of almost like your life's mapped out before you're ever born and God knows everything you're going to do. And I think that it is conflicting with this, where it says, no, His goal is that we would all be saved.
Yes.
That we would all turn to Him.
Yes.
And that none of us would perish. But He also, you know, starting back with in Genesis, realized that we might not always make the right decision. But we do have free will.
Yeah.
And our lives are not predestined.
Yeah.
From the beginning.
All right. So, for God so loved the world that He gave His only Son, that whosoever believes in Him shall not perish, but have eternal life. So, Brother Rolf has just talked about the plan that God had, and this is a part of the plan. This is a part of the plan, so that you and I can be saved. But I want you to look on the love part. For God so loved the world. Is the world righteous? Is it righteous? The Bible said, for all have sinned and fall short, ain't it? So what kind of love is this? All right, look at it this way. We have the Army and the Marines, we have the Air Force, and we have what else? The Navy. There you go. And these people are from all kinds of different ethnicities and background, and then they come to the test when it comes on to politics, they don't really agree. Am I right? Yes! Huh? But if they're going to war to fight for their what? Their country. They don't care. They might be, you're at each other's head. But when it comes on to the policies of preserving this nation, they put all their differences aside. That seems to be some unconditional commitment, isn't it? That's some unconditional commitment right there. Well, let's squabble it. But when it comes on to preserving America, they will go into battle without a heartbeat. All right? I don't know if my analogy connects, but the unconditional part, the love part, for God so loved the world. We are all messed up. So we have some evil people down here. But God looked beyond all that and said, okay, I'm going to send my son because you need saving. Does it make sense? Make a little sense? For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. Now think about it, only begotten son. And I've said this before, and I don't take pleasure in saying this. I don't know if I'll be able to send my only begotten son into war. Oh, you know. There's a movie out where this woman, was it four of her sons? Saving
Private Ryan.
Yeah, Private Ryan. Was it 4 or 3 of them? Was it 4?
3 of them died.
3 of them died.
4, and
yeah.
they had to get the 4th one back.
Yeah.
Replace them all.
Yeah. It was 4 of them. Yeah. There you go. And 3 of them died. And there was 1 left. And I'm like, we can't go back to the mom and tell her how 4 of her sons died. And so Saving Private Ryan became a mission. Became a mission to take back that son back to America. Is it based on a true story?
I think so.
Yeah, based on a true story. She gave 4 of her sons. Huh? And this is when the moral, we call it consciousness come into play. And the American government is like, no. We can't send, we don't want a Fort Leather. You know, what a sacrifice to make. You know, that a sacrifice to make. He's only begotten son. Paid it. But you know about justice, right? For some reason, God and justice cohabit. You know, and God could have said, well, sin let me get rid of this sin. But he said, for justice to be served. You know, he looked to man could not save himself, he looked to himself to save his son. Because he was the only righteous person. Okay? So God did not want human beings to be cut off from him because of his holiness. So in his love, God found a way to take away human sin. In Jesus, God entered into our world to die for us and save us through costly sacrificial love. And that's what I just spoke about. The justice of God. The justice of God. You know what I mean by justice? If you break the red light, you know, you gotta either do the time or pay the fine. You gotta serve, you know. So for God did not send his son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. He did not send his son to condemn. So Jesus was not in the condemning. When you saw him, he came to seek and to save that which is lost. But God demonstrated his own love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Romans 5 and verse 8. Romans 5 and verse 8. A lot of people are making great sacrifices. I wish there wasn't any war. I wish, you know, there are a lot of debates, and I'm not going into the debates. And some people might say, well, you don't want to go into there because you know why. But people have their own agenda. But whenever the common, and I said common not in the sense of reducing the soldier or the marine to a common way of thinking. You know, the Bible said that the church in the day of Pentecost in Acts 2, from verse 46 and 47, that they had all things in one, in common. The word common then means that they had all things in agreement. They had the same mind, the same structuring of how Jesus taught the apostles and how to do Christianity. Well, to be a Christian rather, and how to live. And so they were living according to the principles and the instructions of whom? of Jesus Christ, and that is why they had all things what? Common. Huh? And so the common soldier, and he's not thinking about the politics of war. Huh? He's not thinking about the profits of war. He's going there to preserve the lives of those who he swore to what? To protect. And so Jesus wasn't thinking about the scars of his trials and the whipped and the betrayal and the denial. He wasn't thinking about the nails driven through his hands and the humiliation of his suffering and the thorns on his head and a spear being thrust in his side. He was thinking about you and I. He was thinking about those before us and those what? After us. Unconditional love. I saw a clip of a videotape where I think it was a monkey came and grabbed this child off a ladder. The father was there, and forgive me, but I kind of laughed. The father ran and left the child. Yes. While the monkey had the child. I don't know. The mother came out and took that child out of the monkey's hand. I don't know. Maybe the father is scared of the monkey. But I'm still laughing. I'm so sorry I'm being prejudiced. I'm still laughing. I don't know. Maybe he's scared. I just don't know. But a mother's love is something else. She disregarded her life to save that child. She disregarded what the monkey could have done to her to save her child. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Jesus Christ disregarded humans' humility. The very same people that is going to beat on him, kick him, do whatever, he disregarded that for their sake. That is, someone would say, full love. That is unconditional, unwavering love for humanity. Let's look at the list of important contrasts. The short list helps us to understand how God is different than people presume. Our natural inclination is to think that as sinful people we must approach God, earn our way, make sacrifices, and suffer for God. We think that if we do this, then somehow God might accept us. This concept is at the heart of all false religious beliefs. The Bible reveals a different kind of God. Natural humanity approaches God. Human suffers for God. God receives human's gifts. Sinners reconcile themselves to God. Biblical teaching, God approaches humanity. God suffers for humanity. God gives his own son. God reconciles sinners. Do you see the contrast in human thinking and biblical principles? Do you see that? Anybody have any questions or comments?
So, Chris, something we've all discussed before, and as parents and somebody who previously served military and everything,
Yeah.
we look back in John 15:13, it says, greater love hath no one than he lay down his life for another.
Mm-hmm.
I could do that.
Yeah.
I'm prepared to do that.
Yeah.
I'm not prepared to lay down one of my children's lives for anyone.
I tell you.
My grandchildren,
It-
my granddaughters that come, I'm not prepared to lay one of their lives down for them.
No.
I might give mine.
Yeah.
I won't give theirs.
I-
That's more love than I
Yeah,
have.
yeah. I mean, and I guess that is why Abraham is considered to be the father of all faith. This dude was ready to sacrifice his only son. I'm like, I still want to meet him and talk to him about that decision. I'm like, I don't know what kind of a faith is that. I don't know the cultural principles. I don't know, maybe there were nations around during this time who were doing, doing some kind of that sacrifice. I don't know. Ur of the Chaldees, and I don't know if you're familiar with the Middle East. You guys familiar with the Middle East?
I think they're all underneath your markers.
Okay. I stepped out of the frame. I'm sorry. It's okay. I was going to draw the map and give you a picture. All right. Yeah. So there are quite a lot of idols, and I've been designed to go do that. There are quite a lot of. It came out of an idol. No, you're fine, because I'm going to close. Where Abraham was, he coming from Ur of the Chaldees. The Bible said there were a lot of idols there. The place where he used to live. I don't know if you have ever read about the ancient can't remember it, but the Fertile Crescents ran where the Tigris and the Euphrates meets, and it pours into the Persian Gulf. And the Persian Gulf is right there. Ur of the Chaldees is right there. And there were a lot of idols. So I was just making the point with Abraham, and he's really a guy, a father of all faith, because God, and I don't know how God spoke to him, and as I said, maybe because of the idols, they were a believer in a lot of gods. And God said, get up out of your country, and I will show you a land of milk and honey. And you'll be surprised where he traveled to Hebron, and when he went all the way up to Hebron and then came back down to Jerusalem, quite a journey for Abraham and his family. But Abraham is quite a person. To be able, I don't know if I could even take that journey with my son. The son is asking, no, I couldn't have that conversation. And the dad knowing he's a sacrifice, that makes no sense. God, you're nuts. No, on a serious note, that must be a nerve-wracking thing. And, and if you go and read the story in Genesis, it is quite dramatic. It is, to me, it's quite graphic. When you think about it, it is not a fictitious story. It's something that happened for real. And, just the journey alone would cause a wreck if you're driving. Thinking about going on this journey and knowing what God said, that the sacrifice is riding beside you, and the sacrifice is your son, your only son. And this dude, Abraham, guy, is saying to his son, God will provide. Quite an amazing story. But the irony, or ironically, God did not provide a sacrifice like that of Abraham. He gave up his son. You understand what I'm saying? He gave up his son so that you and I could be saved. He gave up his son. There was no provision of someone to stand it. No, when he looked, a man, animal couldn't cut it. He had to give up his son. And even though time is not assigned to God Almighty, the plan was in the foundation before the foundation of the world, and all through Genesis to Malachi, which is 39 books. And what did I say? The entire Old Testament was written because of whom? Because of whom? Jesus Christ. No, you need to know that I tell you that, and you say it, please. It was written because of Jesus Christ. And the annals of time, God dealing with man, in the back of his head, he's going to turn his face away from his son, because the Bible said that Jesus became sin, that you and I could become what? Righteousness. And when God looked at his son, the world was on his son, or his son. It was because of the world why his son is being crucified. That is why Jesus cried out and said, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. My Father, why hast thou forsaken me? That's what Jesus, that encounter is why Jesus went into the Garden of Gethsemane and prayed till his sweat became. He was crying out and wailing out. He didn't want to experience that, to be severed, separated from his dad because of humanity. Because of humanity. And while Jesus was being separated, he's bringing us back in a relationship with whom? With God, because of the Son's blood. And that is why when God looks on us, whose blood is he seeing? Not our blood, but his Son's blood. Shed his blood so that you and I can become righteous. And I'm going to exhaust this chapter, because I think it is a chapter that should be exhausted. So next week, God's willing, I look on Jesus' life, death, and resurrection. And I'm telling you, really interested, Jesus' life, death, and resurrection. Any questions? Any comment? Thank you for your time and your participation.